You're a white man in the United States. You're so lucky. Were the words of my stepmother as we sat at a beach in Mallorca talking about politics. I disagree. I do not have any advantages for being a white man in the United States. Well, currently in Arizona, according to Title 13, Criminal Code 13 1402, a woman may face jail time if she exposes the areola or nipple of her breast or breasts and another person is present, and the defendant is reckless about whether the other person, as a reasonable person, would be offended or alarmed by the act. So, yes, in Arizona, I could run a 5K shirtless while a woman couldn't, and if she had a nip slip, she could face jail time. My topic is a correlation of the sexualization of the female body and the decrease in breastfeeding. I am qualified to talk about this problem because of my extensive research on the issue. In the body of my speech, I'll discuss three main points. On my first point, I'll focus on the problem. On my second point, I'll analyze the cause of the problem. And on my third point, I'll offer a solution. I will now begin my first point where I will focus on the problem: sexualization of the female body. In a 2019 Chicago Court of Appeals article, attorney Andy McNulty said, quote, "The court ruled that ordinances target a group based on gender, such as banning women specifically from going topless while allowing men to do so, is a violation of the Equal Protections Clause of the U.S. Constitution," end quote. The stigma on topless men and women is unequal, and it is unfair that people, even in the courtroom, believe that women do not have the right that men have to take their shirt off in public. A study published in 2004 called Public Beliefs About Breastfeeding Policies in Public Settings, quote, by Benton Davis, quote, "A national public opinion survey conducted in 2001 released that only 43% of U.S. adults believe that women have the right to breastfeed in public settings," end quote. Before formula, the only way a child could survive the first months of infancy was through breastfeeding. Therefore, believing that mothers don't have the right to breastfeed in public is vague and cruel. Women are basically 57% forced to use formula. Dr. Janet Belsky stated on her 2013 developmental psychology book, Experiencing the Lifespan, quote, "Among infants born in 2015, 83.2% started out breastfeeding. 46.9% were breastfeeding at 3 months, and only 35.9% were breastfeeding at 12 months," end quote. Dr. John Thompson stated on the 2017 article, Breastfeeding Duration and Risk of SIDS, quote, "One of the ways to reduce the risk of sudden infant death syndrome is to breastfeed your baby," end quote. If women were educated about the benefits of breastfeeding and encouraged to do so by the community, we would see an increase in breastfeeding and lower infant mortality. Now that I have discussed the problem, I'll now move on to my second point. For my second point, I want to analyze the cause of the problem. Betty Rogers and her colleagues stated on the 1994 book, Breastfeeding Initiation in Low-Income Women, quote, "As shown in both quantitative and qualitative studies, the perception of breasts as sexual objects may lead women to feel uncomfortable about breastfeeding in public," end quote. Michael Daniels and Robert Parrott stated on the 1996 book, Prenatal Care from the Woman's Perspective, quote, "In American culture, breasts have often been regarded as sexual objects, while their nurturing function has been downplayed. Although focusing on the sexuality of female breasts is common in the mass media, breastfeeding pictures are rare, and a mother may have never seen a woman breastfeeding ever," end quote. It is important that all people, respect women at all times, and that they are educated about viewing breastfeeding as a healthy, nurturing action. Breastfeeding could increase if the social stigma and embarrassment would decrease. Now that I have discussed the cause of the problem, I'll now move on to my third point. For my third point, I will offer a solution. Carlene Gribble and her colleagues from the University of Western Sydney's School of Nursing stated on the 2019 article, Emergency Preparedness for Infant and Young Child Feeding in Emergencies, quote, controlling the distribution of breast milk substances, providing supportive environments, and appropriate medical assistance to breastfeeding mothers safeguards the health and well-being of mothers and babies. And greater collaboration between the nutrition and reproductive health sectors is required to promote the best practice in protecting breastfeeding women and their children, end quote. The answer is clear. We need to provide safe, supportive, or neutral environment for mothers in our society. A solution to the problem would be implementing breastfeeding in the sex education curriculum in high schools. According to the 2008 Gender and Society book by Jody O'Brien from Seattle University, it is important that kids are taught how to talk about someone else's body. Some students may need therapy regarding these issues or special attention when it comes to these lectures. So that way, when they come out of the classroom, they respect others at all times and they see these topics as normal or from a medical point of view. And when one laughs, others laugh. And when one judges, others judge. To conclude, today I spoke how the sexualization of the female body is a problem and how it causes unnecessary problems for breastfeeding mothers. I started with my first point, discussing the problem. I analyzed the cause of the problem on my second point, and I offered a solution on my third point. To conclude, back to my introduction, I now agree with my stepmother. Even though I understand that we cannot decide our gender before we're born, nobody can. Therefore, it is unfair that a man can run down the street shirtless, and if a woman does so in Arizona, she can face jail time. What can we do to solve this problem? We need to educate others. We need to focus on gender equality and giving women and mothers the rights and the respect they deserve. The implementation of breastfeeding in the sex education curriculum could benefit our society. Thank you.